in society today, the community has been broken down, where individuals are kind of fighting for themselves.
As we're in communities or at the national level, we really need to come together.
Leadercomm, in my mind, is that conduit that causes those various entities, whether it's faith-based, whether it's business, whether it's schools, whether it's community, whether it's government, to come together.
So Leadercomm is about breaking down the walls in the nonprofit space. It's about getting nonprofit organizations to work together in a collaborative effort.
Well, Leadercomm is a new way of approaching community development.
We're there as a helper, a facilitator, catalyst. We're trying to bring people together.
Everybody is lifted up with the infusion of all these ideas.
We're not seeking something for Leadercomm. We try to keep a very low profile, work behind the scenes.
So Leadercomm works on first going in and asking the question, what do you need? What's hurting in this community? And listening to all the key stakeholders of what they see as the problems, and then getting them to think a little bit different about how they deliver services into the community.
Helping take down the barriers that are separating them and to work as an orchestra rather than as individual instruments.
So it's more and more important than ever for us to figure out a way to organize what we've already got into a meaningful and impactful process. And you can't do that without principles that Leadercomm is focused on.
Leadercomm is about the 3 R's. That's the basis, that's the tripod that it sits on.
Relationships, routers, and rewards.
It's relationships that change people, and a good program simply has created the environment where there's healthy relationships going on.
Not that they like each other necessarily, or not that they all agree with everything each other is talking about, but that they relate to them and they trust them.
It starts with people feeling like they are legitimately being loved and not used.
We're talking about the love that's willing to walk with your neighbor through their pain and through their changes, and to be willing to change ourselves.
That's the key. That's the key to living. That's the key to human beings. That's the key to cultures. We've got to be able to build, positive relationships to make changes.
So everybody says relationships are important, but we're about authentic relationships, because we think in order to create any kind of change, you've got to assemble people who trust each other.
We don't have a youth problem, we have an adult problem. And if they don't see us working together, if we aren't caring about each other, you can't expect the kids to be any different. You have to model what you're talking about.
But I think the government claims that there are about 10 or 11, 12 million out of the 49.5 million kids that go to public schools are coming out of poverty. So we got all these children with poverty, but then alongside that we have this enormous number of organizations that are out there that are trying to do good and really are doing good and working on this problem.
What we did was build institutions around the fragmented pieces, but they were scattered all over town. Health people in one part of town, the mental health in another, the police, the juvenile justice in another part, the faith community in another part, and people needed a PhD in systems to get help.
The router in projects ends up being a real key element to execution.
There needs to be a person and a disinterested party, so to speak, but committed to getting everybody to work together and knowing where the pockets of hope and opportunity are.
And getting them to communicate and break down the walls, the silos, to deliver a more effective, more personalized services into the community.
The router is taking all that's going on and putting it in a consumable, viewable, interactive form where we can all participate.
Leadercomm's concept can also work at the national level. So at the local level, we've talked about what you can do with influencers locally. You can do the exact same thing by using a router at the national level.
Ultimately, to make this work in the long term of getting people to work together, they need to be rewarded to work together.
We want to make sure that people who are providing money and have resources do it in a coordinated, accountable way so that everybody wins and commits to working together.
If we can get the funders to think differently about how they fund a community versus one organization, and think about getting collaboration to take place between organizations.
Well, people who are in silos, it's hard to get out of them, and so what the incentive is to get out of them has to be a different reward system.
But if they come together collectively and collaborate at a larger level and be willing to share their best practices with each other, their impact will even be stronger.
Your outcome is going to be good for what you're doing, but it's going to have a collective impact if you all work together. To compete, to cooperate. There's a lot of good things happening, but they're happening in isolation of the collective whole. Sometimes you need folks from outside just to give you a vision of the entire community.
We're not trying to compete. We're not trying to set up another community development nonprofit to compete against all of the other ones. In fact, we're trying to get all these community development nonprofits to work together. So we're on the collaborative front versus the competitive front.
I think what Leadercomm does, it comes in and it provides an opportunity to facilitate without reward, without credit, without saying charge for my services, and it puts people at ease to be able to cause them to come together.
If somebody's got to have their name on it or be paid for it or take credit for it, it doesn't add any value.
I think it's really like being a catalyst for change, for positive change in communities, being a party that has no real skin in the game other than to be helpful.
The question should be, how do we deliver the resources we have in the most caring, accountable, and coordinated way?
So that we all become better together.
We want to change the conversation in the nonprofit space from having organizations naturally compete against each other to build the reward system into a framework actually to be rewarded for collaborating.
I will feel like Leadercomm has been successful when we begin to see that not only children are empowered to reach their potential, but their parents, their extended family, and their neighborhoods are able to reach their dreams and goals.
We're trying to offer a different solution that creates hope. We're about not charity, but we're about creating change.